Hi, my name is Catherine, and welcome to my channel where we talk about books you should read instead of stuff you should buy. Today, I want to talk about how the viral 75 Hard Challenge is a psyop that primarily serves the capitalist class rather than the people who participate. If you've never heard of this challenge before, don't worry, I'll explain the rules in a sec. And if you have completed this challenge, congratulations, you are insane. The 75 Hard Challenge is a quote-unquote mental toughness program developed by self-help guru Andy Frisella that demands following the strict rules he lays out for 75 consecutive days, and if you slip up at all, you have to start over at day 1. The rules are as follows. Every day you must 1. Follow a structured diet geared towards your goals for 75 days with 0 deviations, 0 excuses, 0 alcohol, and absolutely no cheat meals. 2. Complete 2 workouts. Both must be a minimum of 45 minutes long, they must be 3 hours apart from each other, and one of the 2 workouts must be outside. 3. Drink a gallon of water. 4. Read at least 10 pages of a nonfiction book that relates to your self-development in some way. Audiobooks don't count. And lastly, number 5, take a progress picture. Before I get into why this program is capitalist propaganda, I have to discuss my questions and concerns with each of these rules, because I have many. And I say all of this as someone who is fairly ambitious and prioritizes health and fitness. Okay, starting with rule number 1. It's a bit contradictory because you get to choose whatever diet aligns with your goals, but then you must stick to it with 0 deviations whatsoever. But what if your goal is to develop a healthy relationship with food? Because as far as I'm concerned, following a rigid set of rules and never allowing yourself to have treat foods does not exemplify a healthy relationship with food. My diet of choice that aligns with my goals, general health and longevity, is one that focuses on including a variety of whole plant foods, but rejects the outright exclusion of processed foods and treat foods. Within this framework, the concept of a cheat meal does not exist. Books like Fiber Fueled by Will Bolsowitz or How Not to Diet by Michael Greger are diet books that center around philosophies like fiber maxing and the traffic light system, which encourage mindful eating rather than total restriction. For example, Dr. Greger recommends avoiding what he classifies as red light foods, which are ultra-processed, hyper-palatable foods like Oreos and Takis, but acknowledges that consuming them on occasion is fine. So eating a few Oreos over the course of 75 days is not a deviation. Andy Frisella is giving people leeway by allowing them to choose their own diet plan, but not acknowledging the inherent contradiction in allowing no leeway. He stresses that this is not a health and fitness challenge, it's a mental toughness challenge, which is made clear by the fact that he says it doesn't matter which diet you choose as long as you stick to it. Diets high in animal products like keto and carnivore are proven to increase your risk for cancer and heart disease, so adhering to such diets is not advised by nutrition experts. But Andy says if you commit to the carnivore diet, you better not stray from the plan. If you dare eat a piece of fruit, you have to start over. Also, what if you have an unhealthy goal, such as losing weight when you're already at a healthy weight? Restriction is not inherently dangerous. Some level of restriction is good. On a population level, overeating is a bigger problem than restrictive EDs, so you could argue that the benefits of restrictive diets outweigh the risks. However, a program that requires total restriction and punishes you by forcing you to start over at day 1 if you slip up is a bad idea, especially if you have a history of disordered eating. On the 75 Hard subreddit, someone sincerely asked if they had to start over because their diet of choice was no added sugar, and they accidentally ate a breath mint that had 1 gram of sugar in it. The replies are filled with people saying, yes, you failed, and must start over. If that's not disordered eating, I don't know what is. I'm not saying that if you attempt this challenge, you will develop an ED, but it seems like the people drawn to this type of challenge are naturally more inclined to, which is a recipe for disaster. And that brings us to number 2, where he essentially advocates for exercise bulimia. No health professional is going to recommend working out for a total of 90 minutes a day, every single day, for 75 days straight. This rule is as contradictory as the last. He says the type of workout doesn't matter. You can run, lift weights, do a cross-training workout, go for a walk, or even do yoga. As long as you're getting up and getting your body moving with the intent to get better, it counts. He acknowledges that people are starting at different fitness levels and includes walking as an example of a workout. But on his FAQ page, he specifies that it must be a workout in the sense that it must be physically challenging. For those who are already in shape, walking isn't exactly a workout, so he suggests wearing a weighted vest to make it more challenging. He also lists yoga as a workout, yet specifies that stretching does not count. I'm assuming the same reasoning applies here, which rules out restorative or yin yoga, which focus on flexibility and meditation rather than strength and balance. Yin yoga, which involves holding stretches for long periods, can be very physically and mentally challenging, despite not getting your heart rate up. So if it's a mental toughness challenge, not a fitness challenge, why doesn't deep stretching count? And isn't flexibility a facet of your overall fitness? Shouldn't stretching be part of your warm-up? If stretching doesn't count, does that mean you have to start the clock after you stretch? What this all means is that you can't even take active rest days where you substitute your challenging workouts for gentle yoga and walking to allow your body to recover. Anyone who knows anything about fitness will tell you that your body needs recovery days to train effectively and prevent injury. Given how physically demanding this program is, it's likely that you'll get sick. And what are you supposed to do when you get sick? Power through or start over, I guess. I would not recommend powering through. And if that isn't deranged enough, he specifies that physical labor, including yard work or moving into a new house, does not count as a workout. He also excludes outdoor activities that we do for fun, such as skiing, snowboarding, kayaking, and baseball. He says, I want to be crystal clear. You know in your heart what's a workout and what's not. Like, sir, your attempt at clarifying is making me more confused. How can you insist that one of your 2 daily workouts must be outside, but then exclude outdoor activities like skiing and kayaking? Let me get this straight. If I go on a ski trip during the 75 Hard Challenge, I can't count skiing all day as an outdoor workout. So each day of my vacation, I must wake up early to do 45 minutes of power yoga or weight training, ski all day, and then go for a 45-minute run or hike in the snow. Excuse me? I guess if you're having fun, it doesn't count. Rule number 3 is also incredibly stupid because your water needs depend on your size, environment, and diet. A 6'4" man living in Arizona is gonna need a lot more water than a 5-foot-tall woman living in a humid climate. And of course, beverages like juice or tea don't count. So let's say this hypothetical petite woman who lives in rainy Seattle is also drinking matcha lattes and green juice and eating lots of fresh fruits and vegetables as part of her structured diet. Why are we arbitrarily insisting that she chug an obscenely unnecessary amount of water for 75 days straight? Rule number 4 shouldn't have me as heated as it does because 10 pages is very reasonable. And as a booktuber, I should just be happy that he's including reading as part of the plan. But why does it have to be nonfiction? Fiction can absolutely support your self-development goals. Like, what if as part of my self-development and entrepreneurial goals with this YouTube channel, I want to improve my literary comprehension skills? Why doesn't reading 10 pages of a novel count? Why do men seem to believe that only nonfiction serves as self-development? Also, why do audiobooks not count? If you're comprehending the content, it doesn't make a difference whether you process the words with your eyes or your ears. And finally, there's rule number 5. At first I thought to myself, if this is not a fitness challenge but a mental toughness challenge, why insist on taking a photo of your physique every single day? But then I realized that daily progress pictures is not a normal fitness tracking behavior. It's a textbook example of body checking, which is a behavior associated with body dysmorphia. Restrictive eating disorders are mental health disorders related to control. Exerting extreme levels of self-discipline is a coping mechanism for the distress caused by a lack of control in other areas of life. I'm not one of those people at the opposite end of the spectrum that's completely anti-diet, anti-intentional weight loss, anti-before and after photos, but taking photos of your body every single day feels a bit obsessive-compulsive. The whole idea of this being a mental toughness challenge is ironic because he's not setting people up for success and mental well-being. He's setting them up for burnout, injury, and mental health disorders. Pushing yourself this hard is not healthy or sustainable. There are people like me who took one look at this program and thought, nope, this is way too extreme. But they liked the idea of a 75-day streak, so they modified the program to better suit their goals, calling it 75 medium or 75 soft. According to Andy Frisella, this defeats the whole purpose. When people have asked him, can I do insert random task instead of one of the 75 hard tasks? His response is no, because that's the entire problem. You are trying to compromise and adapt things to suit to your needs before you ever even start. When you make a small compromise to yourself, it ingrains that decision pattern in your life. You subconsciously tell yourself that this is okay, and without knowing, create a pattern of compromise across every single area of your life. Experts on habit formation do not agree with Andy's hardcore approach. As laid out by James Clear in his popular self-help book, Atomic Habits, if you want to develop a healthy habit, you have to make it easy by removing as many barriers as possible. While James Clear is not a behavioral psychologist, this advice seems to align with expert consensus. Likewise, if you want to break a habit, you have to make doing said thing more difficult by adding barriers. That way, you're working with your brain chemistry rather than fighting it. Obviously, it will require some level of self-discipline, especially in the beginning, but the goal is for the behavior to become second nature, something you just do rather than something you have to muster up willpower to do. But Andy argues that the point of the 75 Hard Challenge is that it's supposed to be difficult and it's supposed to be inconvenient.
Essentially, the whole point of the program is to put yourself in the most inconvenient, non-compromising situation that you possibly can.
Developing healthy habits is not the point. Struggling is the point, as evident by the fact that skiing doesn't count as an outdoor workout because it's too much fun. This just shows that conservatives really do have a suffering fetish. You don't deserve rest and relaxation unless you earn it through pain and struggle. In that same interview with conservative pundit Megyn Kelly, Andy goes on to say,
"There is no room for substitutions here. There is no room for, oh, you know what, I don't feel like it. I'm going to give myself a break, or I'm going to give myself a mental day, or all this shit that people are doing now about letting themselves off the hook. Because letting yourself off the hook is the reason that you are where you are in this state of unhappiness, in this state of unfulfillment. And so what we're looking to do over the next 75 days is to correct that behavior and give you a new perspective on what it takes to actually build resiliency, toughness, grit, fortitude. And I can promise you, we've had people from all, and by the way, the program's free. You can listen to the program on my podcast for free. You don't have to buy the book. If you want to buy the book, that's great. It'll give you a more in-depth description, but this is not something that you must do. And I like to make that really clear because this is not some sort of like money-making thing for me. This is something that I want you to do so that you improve, so that our culture improves, so that we can get our fucking country back.
Ignore the fact that money actually does buy happiness and that wealth hoarding among the rich comes at the expense of everyone else. Ignore the social determinants of health. You see, you are the reason for your unhappiness. The problem with this country is that we have a culture of laziness. As Devin Price argues in their book, Laziness Does Not Exist, what people attribute to laziness is the result of burnout from overwork, untreated mental health conditions, systemic barriers, and/or something else. I read this book a few years ago and remember really enjoying it, though I was not wholly convinced by the title. I think that laziness does exist to some degree, but that conservatives wildly overestimate its prevalence. This bootstrap mentality serves the capitalist class because it instills self-blame rather than class consciousness. Elon Musk just became a trillionaire, but don't focus on that. Focus on yourself. I'm not saying you should completely externalize your locus of control and take zero personal responsibility for your life circumstances. There are things that are within your control, and you should strive to improve yourself. But to fully internalize your locus of control is equally dangerous because it allows others to take advantage of you. Abusers want their victims to blame themselves. Capitalists want busy little worker bees on that hustle grind set who believe in the myth of meritocracy, so that when they fail, they blame themselves rather than the capitalist system. Andy says,
"This is something that I want you to do so that you improve, so that our culture improves, so that we can get our fucking country back."
If laziness is a character trait, does he think that Americans just got lazier inexplicably? Does our country just need more self-help gurus? People are shaped by their material conditions, so when society takes a turn for the worse, it's due to bad policy, not character traits. Traits like resilience, toughness, grit, and fortitude are undoubtedly good things to cultivate, but total self-reliance is illusory. Everybody needs help from others to survive in this world, and we need healthy social systems to thrive. Understanding the social determinants of health is crucial. You are responsible for your health and happiness to a certain extent, but saying that letting yourself off the hook is the reason where you are in this state of unhappiness and unfulfillment is wild. There are a multitude of reasons, the most impactful being your environment, which is again shaped by policy. A lot of people are drawn to the 75 Hard Challenge because they're unhappy with their weight. But obesity is not caused by a lack of mental toughness. It's caused by living in an environment with ultra-processed, hyper-palatable foods in schools, hospitals, and advertised everywhere that is car-dependent and socially isolating, which leads people to drive instead of walk or bike, and overeat to cope with stress. This doesn't mean you have no control over your weight, but you don't have no one to blame but yourself, as Andy implies. And you should probably choose a weight loss plan that is actually sustainable, rather than a hyper-restrictive fad diet program like 75 Hard. It will require some grit and fortitude, but not the amount that this program demands. And lastly, it has to be said that completing this challenge requires more privilege than discipline. No matter how rich and privileged you are, this program obviously requires a lot of discipline. But it requires a whole lot more discipline if you're broke and working 2 jobs. There will always be people who have exceptional levels of determination, but it's tautological that most people are not exceptional. So while I'm sure there are examples of working-class single moms who are able to complete this challenge, the majority of people who complete 75 Hard are in positions of relative privilege. I'll bet the working-class single mom who failed on day 20 probably has more mental toughness than most of these men who completed the challenge. And I didn't even talk about how our menstrual cycles play into all of this. Oh my god. Please don't do this to yourself. If you really like the idea of a 75-day challenge, invent your own rules. Andy Frisella is not God. My suggestion would be to pick a diet plan that requires you include certain foods rather than exclude certain foods, like Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. For workouts, I would include at least 2 active recovery days, and fun activities like skiing and kayaking absolutely count. Drink whatever amount of water is recommended for your height and weight. Read 10 pages of any book. Audiobooks count. Might I suggest laziness does not exist. And take a progress pic once a week, or not at all. Definitely not every day. But whatever you do, don't bear the blame that belongs to the capitalists who are exploiting you. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so you can help me get to 1,000 subscribers. And seeing as my channel is relatively small, I will be reading all of your comments. Alright, peace out.